Elon Musk once lived and may still live in a Boxabl Casita in Texas, a $50,000 home that promises to revolutionize the real estate industry. And folks, you know I'm a big fan of revolutionizing real estate. In fact, I have a housing startup that would benefit from working in partnership with a company like Boxabl, because we were really excited about the idea of potentially having affordable homes that we could add to the backyards of properties that we own or in the future will own, so we can increase the amount of affordable housing that exists in America. The premise of Boxabl is fantastic, and being not only a real estate broker but also a licensed financial advisor, having an actively managed ETF and a real estate startup, I'm a big fan of teaching people about real estate and affordable housing. However, that's where my excitement ends, because unfortunately, some of the things that I realized with Boxabl just weren't what I thought they would be. Now, it's taken me a bit of time to put this video together because I wanted to make sure it was as transparent as possible. I think I and our communities would benefit from partnering with companies that could manufacture affordable guest units. They would make permitting so much easier, to have one consistent plan to be able to permit guest units, buy them, deliver them, build them, done. It would be phenomenal. The dream is excellent, and it's necessary to help solve the housing crisis in America. But unfortunately, what I ended up finding out was that Boxabl is nowhere close to helping us on that mission. And that's unfortunate because I wanted to love everything about the company. But instead, what I found is that one of the three co-founders, one of the sons, is dumping their shares in the company, over $5 million of shares of the company. The patents the company says they have, they don't actually have. And the valuation of the company makes me very concerned for a product that isn't ready for prime time at all. In fact, the current version of the Boxabl Casita is permitted as an RV, not as a home, because they can't get it through permitting. And that means all of the existing intellectual property they have isn't anywhere close to prime time and likely will never be. That's because at every step of the process in my Boxabl factory tour, I was told that here's how we're doing things now, but don't worry, we're completely changing how we're doing things now, and we're going to Casita version 2.0, and we're going to do it all better in the next version. Well, where is the next version? There is no next version yet. That's because even though the company spends millions of dollars a year on research and development, at one point in my interview, one of the co-founders told me the only research and development team are the three co-founders. So it seems to me that the three co-founders are actually funneling research and development money right into their own pockets because they are the R&D department, despite the fact that they are already taking hundreds of thousands of dollars in salaries and many millions of dollars in stock-based compensation. That at already an extreme valuation. Now, let's understand valuation for a moment. If you invested $1 million into a startup valued at $1 million, the startup would get $1 million, and technically your cash is worth $1 million because you invested at net asset value. Basically, the value of the company equals cash. That's extremely rare to find a company doing that because generally the company will sell you shares at some kind of diluted value because the company is getting paid for having established itself as a company. It's very rare to see a 1-to-1 ratio in valuations. It's something that I'm doing with my startup, but again, my startup would benefit from working with a company like Boxabl. We are not in competition at all. Now, here's how normally startups work. Let's say you invest $1 million into an AI startup worth $10 million. The startup gets $1 million and you get 10% ownership. Well, technically that 10% is worth $1 million, right? It technically is worth that. But what you're really doing is you're saying 90% of your investment has gone to brand value at the company and 10% has gone to actual cash. because of that valuation step up at 10 mil, only 10% is cash at the company. And so therefore 90% of your money is going towards brand value. This is called dilution, a 10-to-1 dilution. This is actually extremely normal in the stock market to see stuff like this. Any kind of private equity, public equity dilution is extremely normal because you're paying for the existence of the company. Okay, now there's Boxabl. If you invest $1 million into Boxabl at the over $3 billion valuation they have, Boxabl gets $1 million in cash, but your cash is only worth $318. That's because you're over 99.9% diluted by the valuation that Boxabl has. Now, that's our opinion. You should check your math yourself on your public filings. But let's just say the owner one of the co-founders who just sold $5 million of shares to normal investors did so at that $3 billion valuation. Now, they say that the company has backers like D.R. Horton, really big institutional real estate players. But they don't tell you that those backers actually invested via preferred and convertible shares at a valuation of around 7 cents per share. And now people are paying about 77 cents per share. So in other words, that institutional partner invested at 1/10 the valuation and was getting paid about 10% interest in preferred shares to make that investment. So when we look at Boxabl and you listen to this interview, I want you to pay specific attention to red flags. Most of the products we believe that Boxabl sources are from China. Of course, Boxabl tells us that they source things from all over the place. The company also tells us that they have over 60 different patents for their technology that they're actually going to redo because it's not good enough. But that's actually not true and is borderline, dare I say, fraudulent. When you advertise saying the company has over 60 different patents, but you don't actually say that it's actually one of the co-founders' LLCs that owns all of the patents, and they take 1% of all the revenue that Boxabl makes, and Boxabl itself has 0 on its balance sheet for intellectual property, it kind of susses me out a little bit. Boxabl only had 2 customers in 2022 and 2021. And this year, they're only selling to certain partners who are willing to take Boxabl Casitas as RVs for temporary workplace sites. That's because you can't permit them right now as they are for homes. And what's important to look at as well is how much of the property that is the Boxabl Casita still needs to be built after it's delivered and unfolded. It's not just the finish work of drywall and baseboards, but it's also the sewer, the electrical lines, the foundation for the property, the roof, the siding and cladding. Now, some of the siding and cladding may actually be waterproof and blasted from as tested by Boxabl, as they say. That could be believable, but I don't know if it would actually meet code yet, and that's probably why this is being permitted as an RV. Keep in mind also that when you see the factory, this is a company that says they have an over $3 billion valuation, but has equipment on their floor of less than $10 million. And in 2022, the cost to manufacture a casita was about $77,000. So it's no surprise that the Boxabl Casita costs are going up, but that's just costs minus costs of goods sold. The company also has operating costs, so it's going to be a while, I think, before they're profitable, but not just a while before they're profitable, probably going to be quite a while before they actually have a casita that an individual could take delivery on. So I'm not very enthusiastic for a company that appears to be selling for over 167 times revenue with a massive dilutive expense and owners that are actually dumping shares on retail investors at this insane valuation. So I'm very skeptical. While I think that there is hope for something like this, it is not an investment that I personally would make. Now keep in mind, none of the information in this video is personalized investing advice for you. And My opinions on valuation should not at all be construed as fact. Any of the information that you gather from this video regarding permitting or investing or valuation or multiples or costs should be deemed my opinion. In other words, don't sue me, bro. Do your own research. Read through the investing pieces the way I did. Ask their investor relations the questions that you have for Boxabl and let them answer these. But I think Boxabl should be transparent about all of the mentions and discussions that I just made. And I actually think they are, because towards the end of the video, none of this is hidden. It's in their investor relations documents, with the exception of the fact that they run ads saying that they hold patents when it doesn't look like they do. Other than that, this information is available in their documents. And beyond that, it's also worth noting that in my interview with the co-founders, they are willing to be transparent when asked. So I don't think they're trying to purposefully hide these things. I just think nobody's actually given them a solid once-over, and that's what I'm doing. We are at the home of the manufacturer of the home that Elon Musk allegedly lives in Texas. Boxabl. We are here with the co-founder. How did you guys get Elon to live in a box?
Twitter, obviously.
Oh my gosh.
No, actually, he did find out about us through Twitter. One of the channels he follows, I believe, posted our video of our house unfolding. Back in the early days, before we had a factory, we just had a few prototypes, and turned out he wanted to buy one, so we sold him a house.
Wow, so he got one of your initial prototypes, essentially.
Yeah, one of the first 3 Boxabl Casitas made. He wanted to buy them. I said, I have 3, I can give you one. And gave him the one of the first prototypes, which we installed at SpaceX in Boca Chica, Texas.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, I'm excited to learn more about Boxabl.
Yeah, excited to give you a tour.
All right.
I mean, we spent a lot of time like kind of scouring the earth for all different building materials and manufacturing methods, because there's all different requirements for buildings all over the place, and we wanted one universal solution that would like
fit everywhere,
exceed everything. So
that makes sense. Where do you guys get it all from? And like, the mines out here in St. George, they were mining like crazy over there.
Yeah, really all over.
All over.
And as we scale up, we're going to try to kind of vertically integrate some of that supply chain and bring more stuff in-house as well.
Do you guys want to like go mining yourself, or like putting together the laminates or the?
Yeah, I mean, we laminate our own panels here,
Okay.
But definitely, mining raw materials, I think that's in the future, because what we're trying to do, the scale is so crazy that I don't think it's even possible to buy the quantities of parts we want for a lot of things.
Like, and is it a steel frame or aluminum frame?
It doesn't really have a frame.
Oh, on the inside even?
Yeah, because it's basically a structurally insulated panel.
Okay,
so it's
that's your EPS.
Yeah, EPS foam. It does have a lumber frame around the perimeter, but that's not actually structural.
Okay.
That just serves as something for us to kind of grab into with screws when we connect the panel to panel.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so you don't need like on an RV which has a laminated wall panel. You don't actually need the aluminum frames for the foam panels to sit in, because it's sitting within that wood frame basically.
Yeah, we're kind of continuing to refine the design, but definitely, very different than the way people traditionally think about, buildings and stuff.
Excited to see it.
Yeah, and one thing I'll mention as well is we are starting out with the Casita product, but the company is not a tiny house company. We have kind of a grand vision for a building system where different size rooms can stack and connect to build most building types. But Casita seemed like a good place to start, and it turned out to be a good place to start, and we have this crazy interest, so we're running with that right now.
So in the future, for example, maybe you could get to that point where like a Lennar home builder comes to you and says, hey, you guys deliver, 6, 7, 8 pods per property we want to sell. They put it together, do all the finishes, and build out communities like that. Is that sort of a vision that you have?
Exactly the plan. And we actually already have DR Horton, which is the largest home builder in the country.
Yeah, I talked about number 2. That's funny. Yeah. Oh, DR is your number 1.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, they're an investor. They ordered 100 units, and that's exactly what they want, because they're basically a big contractor. They don't directly employ any of their builders, and they don't want to be in a 6-month build. They don't want to have dozens of subcontractors. They don't want to have weather delays. If there was an easier way for all the work to be done before they receive any of it, they'd love that. So that's why they invested in us.
Now, do they sort of like get stock option after placing a big order, or how does that usually work?
So they just invested cash in the company at the same terms as everyone else, at the same terms as all the.
Can you say how
crowdfund
much
people,
they invested?
$1 million.
Okay.
And then they placed an order for 100 units, and then they also hooked us into a bunch of other resources at their company, like including their supply chain.
Okay.
So, for example, we can now buy stuff at their pricing.
That's
And
great.
they're the biggest builder of like cabinets, toilets, so it's pretty good.
That's for like your bathrooms and like you said, cabinets, toilets, you can
Yeah,
buy in bulk like they do.
pretty much. Like I didn't expect it when we first met them, but they've been extremely like helpful, bending over
Nice.
backwards, and anything we need, we can call them and say, hey, do you have a source for copper wire or wood or whatever?
Wow.
And
Wow.
jump right to the front.
What are your
of the
guys' largest like supply chain hurdles right now?
line. So we were kind of born into the fire because
Yeah.
we started manufacturing right when COVID was going on. There's historic supply chain issues and price inflation, and it was totally crazy. So it was good though, because we weren't like an established company hit with that all of a sudden. We were right as we were ramping up and gearing up. We were like, oh, this is what it's like.
Wow, okay, it's
shipping
tough to start.
containers are 25,000 from China, and the big one for us for quite a while was the EPS foam, which is like the core of the wall and all the panels.
Sure.
We were not able to get it anywhere. We were like desperate to find it. But things are changing now, and the suppliers are now coming to us like, hey, we're ready to sell you stuff.
We
'cause
have the foam available for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, how do you insulate them on the outside? Because obviously it's you've got it's like a 1 mil laminate on the outside. How do you insulate those joints?
So when you look at our wall panel, and for example, like the front wall of the house, it's one big panel, all laminated one piece, basically uninterrupted EPS foam through the whole core of the wall. So that gives you, the thermal barrier that's better than a traditional wall. Because a traditional wall, you have like a lumber stud where energy is transmitting through the low R value of the lumber stud, and then we're about to transition into a next gen of the product because
Of the APS?
of the whole product.
Oh, the way you've designed sort of the wall, basically. The wall unit.
So,
Okay.
so like what we're running with right now is the same version that myself, Paolo, and Kyle, the three founders, drew on a napkin and guessed at before we had done anything.
Got it.
And luckily, we've got a big factory, hired hundreds of people, millions of dollars in equipment, ordered hundreds of units worth of stuff, and luckily everything fit together and worked, and the product's great. But now we have like a year of real world experience with the combined brain power of everyone here, and we're kind of re-engineering it, and we're going to come out with this next gen that's going to push everything in the right direction as far as like
awesome.
simplicity to design,
Streamline the manufacturing.
it's going to be great. Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, let's go take a look.
yeah. We'll go check out the factory. Before this, I had a marijuana farm, and before that, I had a Bitcoin exchange business.
Okay.
And
well there, and then just kind of float some money.
basically, I'm just seeing opportunities, jumping on things, kind of mastering, all the info, and then doing pretty well for myself. And this is one where I was doing that marijuana business while I started this, and at a certain point, I just realized like this is a crazy opportunity here, and I need to chase this down full time. So I took my family and moved to Vegas to do it. Yeah. This is the first factory.
This is the first factory?
Yeah, this is the first factory.
Oh, okay. Where's two? That's
the next building is like right over there. We can go outside later.
Oh,
and see
so
it.
you have 1 and 2 here on the same block.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Like the amount of warehouse development that's going on in Vegas.
Sure.
There was just opportunity to grab these buildings that were right next door, and I was like, we got to get these buildings next door as we scale up.
Got it. Okay.
And the grand plan is that this is actually just really a proof of concept factory, and that we need to achieve like true mass production scale to really crush down the costs. And when you look at like modern mass production, the best example is like automobiles, and that's what we want to copy here, and that's what we think we can get to.
So how are the margins right now on them? Because they're selling for what, 50, 60K, 60K-ish, something like that right now?
Well, there's no margins right now.
No, you're sure, because they're just ramping up. But what do you think you can get them to? I mean, I think obviously we'll talk about with the Guantanamos, think you're spending like 77K or so to build them, right? So the people getting them are getting a good deal.
Yeah, and since we started, the costs have come down, the labor hours have come down. I don't want to jump into specific numbers, but I believe we will get to profitability relatively soon. Right now, we're doing a huge overhaul. Like I mentioned before, the the next gen product. We're also putting in about $15 million in manufacturing equipment, opening the second building. All that's going to come together later this year. We're also getting better at buying stuff.
Sure.
You know, just increasing the size of the assembly line. It's all kind of getting massaged into place. And the idea is that we will have the lowest cost building system ever done. And if we don't, the whole company's just didn't work and it's a failure. So I think we're going to get that.
I guess right here, I mean, where does it start? It looks like you've got it all labeled out here. So staging, raw materials in on this side, or what do we got?
Yeah, so this is a really important part of the factory right here. This is the kind of the lamination area where all the parts of the wall come together into the finished wall.
Do you CNC route those here?
Yeah, so that's a CNC.
Here's
there.
your CNC.
We've got 2 other CNCs over there, and we've got more on our way for the next upgrade that I mentioned before.
How long have you been in this building already? You were just over the last year you've been ramping this up.
In production here, less than 18 months.
Oh, less than 18 months. Okay, okay.
And right now we produce 2 houses per shift.
2 per, and you do 1 shift a day right now, I imagine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then how did that compare to last year, 22?
Faster.
Faster, yeah.
I don't know exactly.
So I think if I remember looking, I think you were 143 for the first 6 months, so closer to about 1 a day, maybe. Somewhere around there. Yeah, that would make sense.
And right now, we're not really focused on going faster because what we're doing here is this is a totally new product type, experimental. There's a huge amount of unknowns, a huge amount of risk, and we have to really make sure everything's perfect before we ramp up. So, you know, we're going through all these changes with the manufacturing equipment and the next gen. And at a certain point, we're going to say, you know what, we're ready. We've had enough real world testing. Now we're going to focus on ramping up. And I suspect that happens towards the end of this year. And we expect that we'll be able to hit 5,000 casitas between these 2 buildings once we're ramped up.
Wow. So 2,500 each per year, which then you're looking at 3, 6, 7, 8 a day per building almost.
Yeah. And
total.
The new factory building is not necessarily just a copy of this. It's more of an expansion of this. So what we're doing is we're moving things around. Like a lot of the shelving in here is going into the new building.
For holding your raw materials.
Yeah, a lot of the parts manufacturing, like the CNCs are going to the new building. Then the assembly line here is getting longer. And we're just going to kind of move things around and get more efficient.
So this might be sort of the core line, so to speak, and then all the racks with the raw materials might go over there.
Yes.
So you could forklift, drive across the parking lot, pick up the parts, put them at the beginning of the line here, and go through.
Yep.
Got it.
Really excited about that. And, you know, like some of that equipment we're getting, this whole manufacturing equipment here, that's all getting swapped out with new stuff. So this is where the panels are getting laminated. Right now we make 1 wall. So like, for example, the front wall of the house takes about 20 minutes. Okay. And of course, that's way faster than you can do it the traditional method. But once this
That's the laminated part, right? Or is that with the foam?
So that's like a fully finished wall going from this kit of parts into a wall that's then going to get connected to a floor or something and built into the final.
And that's with your wood frame where they're connected, basically. Those are at the corners. Got it.
Yep. And then so right now 20 minutes, and then we'll be going to about under 5 minutes per panel.
Wow. And 4Xing,
and that will happen with very little human interaction throughout the process. So we're going to speed up. We're going to cut down on labor. Basically, we're going to be dropping off pallets of wallboard on this side and picking up finished painted panels on the other side. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Nice. So how much equipment? I mean, this looks impressive. And we've barely walked in it. How much equipment would you say you have here right now?
I think we're at about $5 million in equipment. Okay. And then we're doing another about $15 million.
That's so the next 15 is more equipment here, more equipment there as well. And you said you're replacing some of these machines?
Yeah, a whole lot of this stuff is getting swapped out.
Just upgrade or whatever.
Yeah, and basically we got in here and said, let's use the minimum money we can spend on equipment possible, get everything done as manual as possible so that we can make sure the process is going to stay the same before we invest in this automated stuff.
And that's why you're saying, hey, you've sort of just come up with the Gen 2 version. So Gen 2, when do you think that goes into production?
All this stuff is going to kind of come together later this year. So that'll be new building, new equipment, next gen. Okay. And that's going to massage everything into place, labor costs, material costs, assembly speed, all that. Really exciting. For example, one of the changes we have is we're going from the current panel design to what we're calling a universal panel. Okay. So right now, each house has maybe 12 separate panels. Okay. And each of those panels has its own separate kit of parts. Sure. What we're doing next is we're going to one panel that's cut down at a later stage into the right size. And we're able to do that with any waste. And then that dramatically reduces the components the number of components that go into making those panels. Lots of different stuff like that is going to contribute to these like really big improvements that we think we're going to see.
That makes sense. Now, in the front, you have some of the examples, and they don't have siding on them, I know. Is there any issue with like elements potentially going in the gaps for hitting that foam, whether it's icing or rain?
It's funny you ask that because we're going through our modular certification that we have to do state by state to get these approved. Yeah. And just now I got back word that we passed the water intrusion test.
Okay.
So we already knew that water wouldn't go through it, but now we have the official third-party test data that shows water won't go through it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's good. And then, those units out front, we have just the stock units set up, which I'll show you later. And then we have some that are kind of dressed up. So we have one with, stone veneer, some with different roof pitches. Sure. You can start to understand that it's more than just this little Casita product.
So how many people do you have right here right now?
I think maybe like about 130 currently working, and then probably another 30 or so in the office.
Nice, nice.
So you can see these parts.
These are your end panels, yeah?
Yeah, these are the end lumber pieces.
End lumber pieces with the vinyl on top, is that?
Yeah, and so like a lot of this stuff is changing, but you can see this is like
that's a vinyl end piece. Yeah. Nice.
So a few different reasons to have this shape.
And this is engineered, which is great. So it's strong lumber that you have anyway.
Yeah, one of the reasons.
Straight.
That's the main reason we wanted engineered lumber.
Straight.
Was because everything is precision cut by CNC.
You mean you don't want to do this at Home Depot anymore?
And the other thing is, it just wouldn't fit.
Yeah,
so it needed to be like,
it's always crooked when you go to Home Depot and pick up a 2x, so that makes sense.
Yep, that's why we picked that stuff.
Okay.
And then, these end caps create just like a shape for the panels to lock into place.
Sure.
They do things like allow for gaskets in there. We have a shape where like if water was to come in here, it wouldn't go up and then over, and you'll kind of see how that goes together later on.
So that way the wall could almost breathe basically out of your laminate.
Yeah, and then all these parts are cut by CNC, including these various shapes on the EPS foam. So
but you have these delivered from someone else then. So you order the EPS the way you need it basically.
We were at first,
okay,
and then we realized we need to be cutting this ourselves because we can
You're
save
cutting
thousands.
the EPS.
Yeah. We can save thousands per unit, so we just got that equipment. It's just being put into use recently.
Wow, that's over this way?
Yeah, we have the big blocks of foam. Okay. We cut them down ourselves, and then eventually we'll make the big blocks of foam as well.
Wow, wow, okay, all right, that's very cool.
Cool.
So now getting into making the foam, you think will be profitable? It seems like making the foam would be, or just get the block kind of thing. But y'all think there's a potential there?
Well, so there's two issues. One is our plans to grow and scale the company. We get to a point quickly where we can't even find enough foam.
I get it. Okay.
Because we're talking about as
and
a
shipping
next
it is hard too. It's huge.
so that's the second issue. EPS foam is like 98% air. And that's one of the reasons it's a great product, but also we don't want to ship air. Sure. So we're going to ship in the beads, expand it ourselves, and that'll save us another $1,000 per unit on materials.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, everything we're doing is focused on pushing down the cost without compromising on anything.
Nice.
So
nice. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, like lunch right now, because I mean, there are fewer people here right now. What, we got 20 maybe on the floor?
There's more.
There's okay. So this is your CNC for the laminates.
So these cut down.
No, these are from the lumber
end caps.
Yeah.
That one over there cuts the interior wall board.
Oh, you're doing the vinyl attachments here.
Yeah.
How are you attaching the vinyl to the wood? Just glue?
Glue, yeah.
Okay.
Glue.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Actually, it's another improvement we're doing where we kind of realized in most cases we don't even need the vinyl. So we're taking it out of the process completely for the next gen.
Oh, wow.
And we're just going to shape the lumber
using
the equipment. So that'll be another cost savings.
Nice. Yeah. Well, hey, less products, the better. Exactly. And then you don't have to glue it.
Exactly. Huh. Actually, this is an example where we're prototyping that idea. So you can see the lumber on this cart already has those shapes in them without having to stick
your channels
on there.
And that's your machinery here that's running the channels through.
Exactly. That's going to cut down this. So you have kind of the same shapes we saw before. This is this little spot for where the rubber gaskets will get inserted in to seal the whole thing up.
The smell of sawdust reminds me of my childhood because I would always sit after school in my dad's workshop He was always taught us. He made kitchen cabinets. So, well, do you think in the future you'll make your own cabinets? It seems like you want to vertically integrate everything.
So we kind of already are.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Originally, we went to Home Depot, bought some cabinets.
Sure.
It was like $6,000 per house.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Then we went to China and bought our own cabinets. The price went down. Okay. Now we've actually re-engineered all the cabinets to do two things. One, reduce the material, and the other, speed up the assembly time.
Okay.
So it's going to be really amazing. And like simple changes, like for example, if you went and bought two cabinets and you stick them together in your house, you then have a wall in this cabinet and a wall in this cabinet.
Sure.
Well, we only need one wall, so we took that out. And then the back wall.
Because you already know the design you're making.
Yes,
so, yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then the back wall, well, that's going against the wall of the house. We don't need a back wall.
Okay.
The way the screws and the fasteners go in, we want everything to click together really quickly.
Sure.
So
you're almost just hanging them.
Yes, exactly. The cost keeps going down and down on that. We're just kind of continuing to fight against and push everything into place.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, because you don't use drywall in these because the inside is it another laminate on the inside?
Yeah, so right now we have what's called magnesium oxide board on the interior wall. And in the next generation, we'll just be switching to like hardy board fiber cement.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like for showers and that.
Exactly,
yep.
exactly.
Okay.
And it gives us a whole bunch of different benefits to do it that way. But one big one is, sheetrock. If you get a flood in your house, the sheetrock gets damaged really quickly.
Sure.
You end up with mold, you got to rip it out.
Yeah.
Our houses, if they flood, the water leaves, you dry it off, and you're good. You don't have any significant damage.
Hence the hardy back. But hardy back was expensive. Don't tell me you're getting into the concrete business too.
It's funny. I have been definitely thinking about how that plays out long term and the various companies that we'll need to either acquire or really partner with really closely.
Yeah, because it's been a while since I've bought sheets, but I mean, I think a sheet of drywall, mold resistant, was like $8 and hardy was like 40 or 50. Correct. I mean, it's up there like a sheet of plywood. Correct. Why don't you do plywood?
So then,
I guess same price then.
If you look at our wall assembly, we've actually eliminated some parts. So a traditional wall assembly, you might have exterior, siding, OSB, lumber frame, nails, insulation, sheetrock, maybe some plywood or whatever. Ours is just going to be concrete board, EPS concrete board.
So you want to do the concrete board instead of the laminate?
Yeah, the next gen is just going to be concrete board laminated to EPS foam, laminated to concrete board.
How thick is this concrete board going to be?
5/16, I think.
Okay, that's going to be heavy.
Yeah, the total weight doesn't come in much more than where we're at now.
I'm impressed. Wow.
And right now we're at about 14,000 pounds per unit, which is dramatically less weight than a comparable sized modular home.
Okay. So, all right.
It's important to be lightweight for shipping costs and heavy equipment required.
Yeah. And so this is one of the, it looks like your hinges or where it bolts together because I there's half of a hinge here basically. So it looks like one of the wall units, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so actually this is kind of what we call the core of the unit. So this is a floor piece. You can see the flooring. And then this is like an 8 foot section. Yeah. And then the other section is a 12-foot floor section that folds up. And this hinges. So what we've got here is a structural I-beam through the center of the
similar
the
to what you have here
and the ceiling. This is just a pocket for us to stick forklifts in so we can lift up the whole house and move it around.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so these are your wider forklifts.
Yeah,
I've seen smaller forklifts.
This is the big boy for moving the whole house.
Okay.
And by the way, that's actually another part that's coming out in the next gen.
What, are you just going to do wood on each side?
We figured out a better way to lift it.
Yeah.
And that's gone because
it looks structural because, if you're just lifting it a few times, you don't need that much.
It's like $1,200 to just do something you're going to do once and then the unit sits down and it never moves again. But this is important. I mean, this is where you end up with a hinging I-beam and the hinge is stronger than the actual I-beam.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So, all those parts come in there. They get fed into this, they get adhesive.
This is your floor paneling section, I'm assuming.
So the panels, the components in the panels get assembled together, they get adhesive, they go into this machine, which is a big vacuum press. It puts like 100,000 plus pounds of pressure on while it cures, and then out come the finished panels looking somewhat like this. And then we'll see the panel library over there. After it comes out of here, we roll it over there and continue the process.
Got it. And right now you're doing everything's sort of going to be expected to be the same floor, the same cabinet, same bathroom, everything until you get to scale is the assumption.
Yeah, I mean, when we started Boxabl, I thought maybe we would sell like a few hundred casitas.
Sure.
I never in a million years thought we would have 160,000 plus people wanting these things.
Sure.
So we're in the fortunate position now where we don't have to do anything different. We can just focus on this initial product, get really, really good at it, learn everything, and then in a future factory, expand to the full building system, where we would not only have different interiors, but different size boxes that can stack and connect to build single families, apartments, basically everything.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say, and we're getting all the heavy lifting done for the builder, developer, and then they're just taking these boxes, deploying them, putting some custom finishing touches on them.
They can sell the upgrades then too.
Exactly. And like, for example, the neighborhood that I used to live in Vegas, we have, you drive in the neighborhood, you see all these different houses, but what you won't realize right away is that they're all the same house. There's maybe 2 or 3 models in there.
Yeah, different veneers.
Exactly.
Or the mirror image them or whatever.
Yes. And people don't need like a perfectly custom house, and then in return for that, blow the budget out of control and make housing unaffordable.
So it sounds like it would be more efficient to start with larger customers, right? I mean, I think that's what y'all started with, right? 21 and 2020 were one customer?
Yeah, so it's interesting, and we were fortunate to get these customers because without them, it would have been really difficult to start.
Well, they give you the capital to, like, here's the large deposit to get the factory going, right?
Yeah, and even things like the modular approvals that we need to deploy these to end users, we don't have those yet.
Okay.
And it's taken so long, it's absolutely incredible, and it's blown my mind. And it's this regulatory process that is stopping innovation. And we were lucky enough to find these initial customers, which, by the way, one was the government, who doesn't,
right?
They don't follow their own rules, so they didn't need the modular.
Okay, so what happened? What would you say to the NYT right now? Look, nobody really likes the NYT. I don't like them either. They shit on me too, man. I'm sorry, but
So what happened in the first order with Guantanamo? We shipped units down there, and the crew that wasn't a Boxabl crew set up a few units, and a few of the units they forgot to put the roof on. So we have what's called a TPO roofing membrane, and you're supposed to just roll it over and secure it down. And they didn't do that for a few of the units. It rained, some water went in. They realized it, they fixed it, and that was it.
So that's what's pictured sort of on the NYT cover, where they show the nailed boards around the edge with the what looks like a tarp
because instead of putting the TPO roofing membrane, they just threw tarps on at the last minute to stop the water. And the reporter of that article, her whole job is to talk shit about Guantanamo Bay. If you look at all her articles, she's always making Guantanamo Bay look bad. But after the article came out, I messaged her and I was like, hey, you threw us under the bus. And she replied back to me and said, I didn't mean to insinuate that it was your fault. I meant to make it clear that it was their fault.
Interesting.
And actually, if you look under one of the pictures on there, the caption of the picture, it says, workers at Guantanamo Bay incorrectly installed some of the units and it resulted in water getting in. But luckily, like I said, the houses are mostly waterproof inside, and the only thing that got damaged was some of the cabinets, which we just swapped out, and it was no big deal.
So you initially delivered about, I think, 30 by the end of, was it 21? And then did you finish, or 2020 maybe, and you finished delivering last year, or are you still delivering to them?
That order's delivered in full.
That's done.
156 houses, so pretty amazing. I mean, when we first got approached by the government, we had nothing. I had a few prototypes. I didn't have this building. I brought them here before we even had the lease signed, and it was an empty shell.
Wow.
Brand new empty shell. And I was like, guys, you understand that we've never done this before. We're not sure that we can do it. We don't have a factory. Here it is, an empty building. Are you sure you want to do this? And they were like, yeah, let's do it. And we managed to get in there.
That was the government. It was
the government.
YOLO.
Pull the trigger on the building, scale up, hire hundreds of people, turn on production of this fully experimental product, order hundreds of components from all around the world and pull it off and deliver in full. So I think it's amazing. And, the fact that we've continued to kind of, execute on the vision and deliver on our promises, I think people see that when they look at the company and they see me starting off as a guy making these grandiose claims. And then they're like, oh, but then this happened, and this happened, this happened. And now we're here, and now we have 2 houses a day.
Where are the units going to now? It looked like you were at 2 purchase orders in 2022. Where are you guys now?
So we ended up doing just a few like onesie projects here and there, but landed another order that was kind of a special order. And it's for a copper mine in Arizona. The company is called Freeport McMoran. They're the ultimate recipient of the houses. I think they're like a $50 billion mining operation. They're one of the biggest. They're one of the biggest employers in Arizona, and they do copper mining. And of course, copper is needed for electric cars, so they're growing, and they need a workforce housing solution. So we currently have units shipping out to them. They're mid setup out in Arizona.
And so you'll have an installer network that you refer people to then, because you guys don't install them, you ship them.
Yeah. So what happened there was we basically had a developer / project manager that knew about Boxabl, knew about the mine's workforce housing need, went to them and said, hey guys, you should buy from Boxabl.
Oh, wow.
We'll set it up. We'll do all the development. So our actual customer is this developer who's selling the project, or who's doing the project
Selling the completed.
for the mine. So we're just shipping them units and they're doing the rest.
Do you expect that mostly contractors will end up being your sort of sales force?
No matter where these units go, there always needs to be someone doing the groundwork. The nature of housing is, there's site prep required for the most part. I mean, it's minimized with our product, but I think builders, developers, they're going to always kind of be the middleman. There's going to be added costs. So if a consumer wants to buy a casita for $60,000 for their backyard, they're also going to need to pay for site prep, permits, any upgrades they want to do, and so that's definitely part of the mix.
What do you expect on average somebody else is spending for, like you mentioned, electrical lines, plumbing lines, water lines, foundation, roof, whatever?
Yeah, I think it varies like very dramatically based on the end use case. For example, if you're doing a backyard unit where the site's already developed, utilities are already there, you're connecting it to a main house, it's not going to cost as much as if you do raw land. You got to bring in utilities from the street. Then there's other things like we have these certified right now as park model RVs. With a park model RV, you don't need a foundation.
Right.
You don't need to add any roof pitch to it.
Sure.
You can almost plug it in with an extension cord. So that's like lowest possible cost. You could take one of these right now, rent a telehandler, unfold it in your backyard, plug it in with an extension cord, hook up like a water tank and be good to go.
But then you're, like you said, like an RV, like it's personal property. You're not refinancing it. You're not getting a home equity line of credit or whatever, right?
Yeah. Or, you want to add in a foundation, you want to dig a trench for real utilities, maybe add some kind of roof pitch and get permits, the price kind of goes up from there. We'll see. I mean, it's a big, wide range of different scenarios. And for example, I'm also right now looking at doing another project where we might buy an old mobile home park. Okay. And so the mobile home park is roughly, I think, $800,000 for 100 spaces. They're all ready to go. So, round up, maybe we end up at 10 grand per space. Sure. And then you come and you connect the Boxabl Casitas in. There's not many more costs than that. So, the Boxabl Casita 60, maybe 70, 80, 90, something around there is going to be your all-in cost for that. And then when you talk about like a 30-year mortgage on 100 grand, it gets to the point where this is a very low-cost housing solution as far as a monthly price.
Do you think that might be the direction you ultimately go, where you go get DMV registration rather than, let's say, housing registration?
So we did that, but only kind of as a reaction to the time it took us to get the modular cert. So as the government order was getting closer to being finished, I'm like, oh shit, we don't have modular cert. We can't sell to anyone. How else can I get these approved? Okay. I went out and certified us for park model RV. We have RVIA that inspects our factory and approves them as RVs. Yeah. And that kind of brings them more into the realm of like mobile home type vehicles. And then there's lax rules and regulations surrounding that. And it's just another avenue for the customer. And hopefully we'll have every avenue for the customer covered. So one day we'll have park model RV, we'll have modular. Maybe we'll be able to get them approved through a panelized certification at the local level. Maybe we'll even do the HUD manufactured housing as well.
So how long do you think until maybe somebody like a retail customer is looking at, I can get a permit on this in my backyard?
I think that we might be a few months away from Arizona State Modular Certification.
For the RV style then?
No, for modular for regular
really?
customers.
Okay.
And at that point, we can actually sell to customers.
Yeah.
Right now, the only way we can sell to customers is the park model RV, which isn't ideal.
Sure.
So once we get that modular cert, we can start shipping to end users. Then we'll quickly do California, Nevada as well.
Sure.
Unfortunately, it is a state-by-state thing. I don't know why. Other products don't have to do a state-by-state approval, and it's not good. But a big part of what Boxabl is doing also is going to be fighting back and trying to change these regulations, and also showcasing a product that doesn't need these regulations.
Right. Well, because if you get to California, they might turn around and go, you need fire sprinklers. That's a whole new system that has to be put in, right?
Oh, there's going to be stuff like that for sure.
Okay.
So
okay.
we'll work through it all.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the process. So what's so right now it's really, hey, where can you get the temporary use cases like the mine maybe, where they're good with here's our industrial temporary power grid or whatever, plug them in.
Yeah.
That's sort of what y'all thinking right now. Okay.
Yeah, and we're fortunate to have these two big customers that allowed us to run really fast and do this. But without those customers, I don't know where we would be, because we might be in a situation where we have this whole factory set up and we can't sell a single house.
Yeah.
And that could be the situation for like another competitor that was trying to start up, unless they found these really special customers like Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, or a huge, copper mine that they would be sitting on their hands for over a year trying to get their buildings modular certified.
Wow. So what's back here in this gray box?
Yeah, let's keep going.
That's it. So, and where do you do all the research? I mean, for like the next gen product?
YouTube.
Stop.
I swear to God.
No, that's awesome.
YouTube, Google, calling people, asking weird questions. That's kind of what it's been the whole time, and then testing stuff for real.
Testing, okay, got it.
Yeah.
And you test that, I imagine, so it's a little slippery here, guys.
So yeah, panels come out of the lamination system here, and then we bring them up right here, where we kind of have a panel library, so you'll see the different panel images there. And then what we're doing is painting and sanding to get rid of the interior seam. Okay. And then we do some electrical work as well.
Are you doing that with like drywall mud? But these are drywall mud pans.
Yeah.
Drywall mud.
So you'll see like this is a panel. This is a panel as it comes out of the lamination machine, minus the electric. Sure. So what we want to do is get rid of like the seams between the wallboard. Yeah. And we're actually trying to work on better solutions for that for the next gen. That's more automated. But right now, it's just drywall mud.
And are you trying to finish it smooth with this?
Yeah, you'll see how they look down here after they get some paint on them.
Okay, so drywall mud, then paint, and the paint blends it all in, basically. So the end user doesn't know if they're touching this or drywall mud.
Yeah, it just
paint's
feels
got
like
you
a
covered.
painted wall. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, that makes sense.
And you can feel also like how solid these are. Like you're not getting through them.
And this is the laminated. You mentioned the magnesium or whatever, right? This is also about another like.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's very similar to Hardy's fiber cement board products. Okay. And then of course EPS foam in the core. And then you can see stuff like the electrical traces are already cut out. So there's a network behind the walls. Sure. And that makes install of electrical easier in our factory and modifications easier in the field.
So, and then I imagine you would just sort of train your existing employees on the electrical or whatever. You don't need an electrician to come in to do that.
Very important point. We do not have skilled labor in our factory. Okay. We can take anyone off the street and just train them as a technician to do a job. Okay. And that's the only way you're going to be able to actually push the cost down. Of course. Is if you can use just regular labor to do something as part of mass production.
Okay. All right. Huh. So is it mostly you and your dad who do the research, or who all does the research?
So it was me, Paolo, my dad, and Kyle Denman. The three of us, started
you guys
the
together
company.
do the research.
Yeah, we worked on it. Paolo and Kyle are, engineers. They're experts in like 3D modeling on the computer.
I see.
So Kyle has drawn up all of this in great detail in the 3D model.
Wow.
And then we'll have meetings where we'll go back and forth, refining the design and dialing it in, constantly trying to change things, improve them. all that kind of
And then
stuff.
I imagine, obviously, you're going to patent this new casita design, right? I mean, because you're giving all the tour. It's like, I feel like you're like, here's what we do, you know? Like, how are you guys going to protect it?
Yeah, you know, a lot of companies are like scared to show their stuff, and I think it kind of holds you back from opportunities. We have over 60 patent filings on all the various stuff that we do here.
Boxabl has 60 patent filings? Holy smokes.
And beyond that, there's a certain amount of barrier to entry just in the sheer amount of money you would need to do something like this. You know, the permitting, like I said, and then also what hasn't been filed yet, what hasn't been done yet. So we're actually
the stuff you have in the pipeline in terms of patents, right?
Exactly. If someone comes in here and copies everything we do,
they're already a year behind is what you're saying.
Yeah, because all of this is no good. We already figured a way better way to do it all.
Wow.
So we'll be implementing all that.
And that's, you're going to sort of remake this facility here into the Gen 2 as you're ready to implement it.
Yeah, I mean, basically for the rest of this year, we're going to be changing everything here, installing all this equipment. You know, after that panel lamination line, we have a whole new paint system that's basically a tunnel where these panels come right out of the lamination system and get fed right through a tunnel and get painted automatically. And you know, and then we have the assembly line here where the panels go together. We have a conveyor system that the houses will sit on, and they'll move automatically through the station.
In the future, the conveyor system.
That's all the upgrades that are going on.
I see.
And yeah, you can see how they end up getting painted here. So like there, they've mudded the seams.
Yeah.
And then here they're getting
No, it's pretty
painted.
good. Yeah, I mean, you can't really tell. I mean, a house has seams, and you can sometimes tell where the drywall is too. So looks good. Cool. Okay. And this is how you stack them up to hinge them together.
Yeah, and just everyone
Careful around here.
be aware that there is stuff like hanging from cranes and stuff. So just please walk carefully in this area.
These are your mini splits?
Yep.
So this is your inside unit for your mini split.
Exactly. Yep.
And so that way you guys can install the minis, and then the outside units on a shelf probably somewhere like that in outside.
Yeah, the mini splits are great.
They're
super
so
compact, energy efficient.
Love them. I put mini splits everywhere. So I love those things. Okay, so I mean, you only really need one mini split for these.
Yeah, it's totally overpowered. For this.
Yeah. And then what's the tonnage on those suckers?
I don't know.
It's not that big.
21,
Yeah, probably okay. What about you did a demo of a two-story. How do you do a staircase in a
So actually the project we're doing for the workforce housing right now, those are all 2-story units, but they're separate apartments, so they have an external staircase.
Got it.
And
Okay,
then
that
at
makes
the
sense.
builder show, we connected 3 units together. It was a 2-story to show like one single house, and that had an internal spiral stair.
Oh, okay.
We could do regular stairs.
You just
but,
cut it out of the floor then?
Yeah, that's what we did. Yeah, but for
Demo unit.
For these smaller units, it's kind of a waste of space to put in a really big staircase.
Can't do
But
it.
down the
Yeah.
line, when we have our bigger units, because these are 20 by 20, but we'll go 20 by 30, 20 by 40, 20 by 60.
You think you can get these that wide and still get them in a container, basically?
Well, so they'll all be 20, and that folds up to 8.5. But then on the
there you
length,
go.
we can keep going.
Sure.
And then on the bigger side of that, like a 60 by, that's a 1,200 square feet in one room.
Yeah,
In most use cases, you're never going to need a room that
Yeah,
big, and
yeah.
you'll end up subdividing it. So.
That makes sense.
But yeah, so here's kind of where the assembly line starts,
Mm-hmm.
and you have you know, these various stations where the same task is being done on the different units every time. So the guys are really good at it. We keep dialing in the process. We make sure the right tools are there.
These are your backless cabs? No, they have backs. These are still your current version of cabs.
This is like a middle generation. We have another gen in the pipeline coming in. But you can see like these are kind of getting pre-assembled, and then they'll be bolted in there pretty quickly. Another thing worth mentioning is that this is what we call the core of the unit. So that's where all the magic happens in this section of the unit, and that's the part of the house that is not folded up.
This is where you guys are also water testing now
And yeah, they're doing
for the PEX plumbing.
they're doing testing and everything. And of course, another advantage of factory production is the quality control level that you can have and the precision. And all.
Yeah, ordinarily you just get a building inspector. Plumbing works, right? So you can actually test it here. Good.
Yeah, I mean the level of quality you could see in a factory using like CNC to cut is on another planet than what is going to happen on the site.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you.
And you know, at the end of the day, our pitch is, you know, site construction is not sustainable. It's not scalable. You know, you're never going to be able to achieve the amount of housing needed by doing it that way. It has to be done on an assembly line because assembly lines are proven to rapidly produce products at the lowest possible cost. And at Boxabl, it was just about solving the problems that have stopped housing from working on the assembly line. Of course, that's, you know, shipping is the big one, and then there's a lot of other stuff.
Because you do have manufactured homes that exist.
Yeah.
But they just haven't gotten competitive with the shipping, I think, is your edge that you're talking about.
Yeah, so you have about 10% of the market that is actually factory-built housing, but they've really kind of gotten stuck and they failed to gain market share. And you'd assume that if it was better, they would take over because they'd have a lower cost product.
Right.
But between the fact that they are shipping these wide loads, which are incredibly expensive, and that limits the size and scale of the factory because then they have a limited shipping radius. They're also just using the traditional methods. There's no innovation on the building materials. Obviously, we have all different building materials. They're just using lumber frame, but doing it inside.
Makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else to see this way?
Yeah, we keep going.
Let's do it.
Another example of something we're doing ourselves is the shower. So you'll see in here, the shower's got the Boxabl logo on it. So
Yeah, it's a fiberglass enclosure there. Oh, and then you guys, how'd you get the custom Boxabl logo?
Yeah, so we didn't find a great solution.
I want a custom logo in my shower. You did,
We'll get you a
didn't
Boxabl logo?
right? Sorry, you were going to say you found a...
Yeah, it's another example of us, you know, taking things in-house. We didn't find any great solutions out there, and we said, let's just engineer our own, and we'll get a bunch of different advantages by doing it that way.
Can I go in here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Huh. Yeah, that's awesome. So you actually, okay, this is your vent, right? Because you don't have a ducted mini split. It's just, this is your exhaust vent.
Yes.
I understand. Okay. And then you're making fiberglass panels in-house? Or how did you, or did you, you're doing the imprint?
China's showers from China, but it's our design.
Okay. Oh, okay. You guys designed it. I understand. I understand. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
For certain stuff, it makes sense to build, to actually manufacture ourselves.
Sure.
But a lot of stuff we need to design ourselves.
And how do you end up finishing, like, just with like a molding or something like that, the plumbing between them? Or, because I know that obviously there's base missing here and the trim mold and that.
We'll see them in the next one.
Deal. Okay. All right. That's the best way to explain it.
It gets prettier.
Yeah, we'll go look at it. Oh, and your water heater is actually in the kitchen.
Yeah, you know, I wanted to use like a tankless, but
they're expensive.
The power demands, that was the real issue.
Really?
So if you have an accessory dwelling unit, then you're still working off the power that's already existing on the house, so 200 amps or whatever.
Sure.
And I didn't want to go and then have a really big power demand and bump over that number, and then it requires new power to run from the street and increase the cost.
Oh, so that's how you're trying to keep that down. Okay.
Yeah.
But now, okay. Alternatively, if somebody did run another line, then they could go tankless.
Or they just had enough power, you know.
Okay. But
we'll
right
see how
now,
it
this
works
option's
out.
going to come with the 130 or whatever it is.
Yeah, and we did all electric as well. You know, we could have done gas, and that would have solved that issue as well.
Throw in an induction cook. Wait, would there be a cooktop?
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see that in that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Or in the demo unit out front.
Okay.
This is actually the big floor.
Oh, interesting. Wait, so your water heater is actually behind the range. So you're not going to do a built-in range because you didn't do the countertop all the way.
Actually, we have to move it because the modular certs, based on the code, it can't be there.
Can't block the water heater.
You need access to the water heater. And even though we have it through an access panel, they were like, it's not enough. The code says 30 inches. So we're moving it soon into the bathroom.
Code wants you to drain the sucker every year. Nobody does.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in order to drain it, you have to take off one of the top valves and drain it off the bottom.
Yeah, and we were like, all right, well, you just move the oven. But they were like, you can't move the oven. It has to have access without moving the oven.
Without moving the oven, yeah.
So that's getting moved.
Interesting. Okay, so not sure yet where that's going.
I think in the bathroom. Well, it's just another one of those things that we have to work through.
TBD. Got it. Yeah. Okay. I like the Lazy Susan. It also doesn't have...
I think that's going away as well.
No.
In the next design.
Why?
In the next design.
Where's the Lazy Susan going? That's all right. Those are expensive. They're not needed. No, honestly, like, nobody's going to look at a place and go, there's no Lazy Susan. You know? If it's there, they'll notice it. All right. What else we got? We got big stuff that looks like it's going to fall. I don't want to stand next to it too close.
Don't stand too close. Just walk by that quickly.
Yeah. So here's all your Romex going through. Now, how do you guys handle the heat transfer in this? Because if all these loads are going, that's a lot of heat bundled.
I don't know.
TBD.
It's
TBD.
legit.
TBD. Okay.
It's
all right.
approved.
It's approved. Okay. All right. That's all right. Very well. Okay. What is this? This is what the wall goes on.
So these are just big screws that kind of fasten it together. This will fasten the ceiling to the walls.
Got it.
Or the floor to the walls.
This is the floor. This is your I-beam.
Yeah, so this screw ends up going all the way.
This is the other flip part that attaches to the hinge we saw.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and the reason we have an I-beam through the floor and the ceiling was to reduce the span of the panels.
Sure.
So that they could be smaller panels and they didn't have to span 20 feet. They only span 10 feet and rest on the I-beam.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So and now you're seeing some of the other panels starting to go together into the house.
Okay.
Like I said, we're folding up all the empty space and we're not folding kitchen, bathroom, everything else. So it gives us, room for activities.
And how many of these are you able to do right now at a time? You said 2 a day?
We output 2 per shift.
2 per, okay.
Roughly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So,
And then this would be for your sub panel then here. Is it okay to walk over here, imagine? Okay.
yeah, this is like a mini split line, and then this is where the box will go.
This is where your sub will go. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to deliver a main, they could hold a main, and you'd have your own power over here, your own 200 or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And then you got the windows over here, pallets of dual pane windows.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of stuff. Yeah, and it's all going to get kind of shifted. Right now we have 10 stations here.
Okay.
And we'll end up with 20 stations plus feeder lines.
Wow.
Once we reorganize the 2 buildings.
Oh, look at this.
Our employees are great.
This is awesome. So you want to get into the foam making business?
Yeah, part of our plans in the future, I think, definitely has to be
Integrating.
a foam factory. And the reason is we're going so big with this. Like I mentioned before, this factory is just proof of concept.
Yeah.
We're trying to get into a $1 billion factory next.
Wow.
So we're currently trying to raise $1 billion to build the world's largest house factory right now.
Because right now you have, what is it? How much inventory, how much machinery? Maybe like 10 in total of both. So you want to 100x the factory investment, basically.
Yeah, we need to.
Where are you going to build it?
We have requests for proposal for a whole bunch of different sites right down the street from here.
Okay.
Basically out in the desert, raw lands. We're going to go out there. We're going to hopefully build millions of square feet of warehouse.
Yeah, that's what you
and
need.
turn on an absolute monster.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. It's a no-brainer.
Okay.
In my opinion, it's a no-brainer that we should be building houses just the way we're building cars.
Yeah.
And we think our product is compatible with all those principles.
I like how you have a crane that goes basically up and down the line that you can move.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that beats moving a crane
we
around.
found out that was overkill.
Well, it looks cool.
So in the next gen, we'll have smaller cranes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, they use that to put the panels into place and unfold the house and all that.
Nice. Nice. Okay, we're getting to the end of the line here. So six
Yeah,
goes
here
to
we are.
that's 9.
Final units. Just getting some final QC. We could probably walk in this one while we're cleaning.
Let's take a peek.
And then they'll fold them up and they'll send them out back.
Oh, you caulk these joints? Oh no, this is the caulking. You caulk
This
here.
is the exterior. This is the steel to steel, and we just peel the plastic off, and it looks great.
So
and then it
this
has
you
some
got the
seal.
waterproofing on, so
Yeah.
the water can't get in between this joint.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, but people obviously still add siding just for cosmetic purposes then.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see the ones out front where we added siding, but you don't necessarily need it.
Okay.
What we're trying to create is like a universal building box that's architecturally neutral that gets bulk of the heavy lifting done for the builder.
Are they retrofit windows or no? You have them flange mounted. Okay, never new construction windows.
Yeah, we
Okay.
we actually glue them in. Put glue around and then
Really?
we stick them in.
Oh,
We put some clamps on.
okay. All right. Sorry.
Hey guys,
Hi.
so here we are,
Hey.
just doing some finishing touches, and the next
Nice.
step
Hi
is this
there.
unit will be folded up and shipped out.
Oh, this is where you get lots of the storage. I like that. That you've got that in here. That's
Oh,
great.
Yeah, we got a ton, and then we'll have the
Oh yeah,
one
see,
piece
you
of
box it
furniture
up.
as well.
You got the little box in the corner there to mold
There
it
you
in.
go.
See, look at that.
So
Yeah.
you spotted that.
Box is there. Christian, could you show that? Because that's pretty neat. That's what we were showing in the last one. In the corner, in the gap between this unit and the shower, the little box right there, that's where the plumbing's going through. So that's finished up. Nice. Very cool. Okay, awesome. And you have 2 angle valves there. 3 angle valves there. Is there a washing machine somewhere?
There will be.
Or is that, where does the washing machine? Oh, right there. Oh, it comes out
You'll
on this
see in
side.
the demo unit.
Okay.
And then we're actually able to get all the appliances in as well in the folded up unit. So there'll be like a fridge and an oven and washer all in here.
Wait. This is where the seam is.
Yeah, so when this is installed,
Yeah.
they're basically going to come in, they're going to drop a trim piece in here, they're going to cut this, and it'll be done.
Okay, so then you don't feel the divot because it has to be filled in. What do you
Yeah,
fill it
this-
in with?
There's a little trim piece that will come with
Oh,
it,
a
like
wood
little
trim piece or
of
something.
wood or something
That just
drops
sort of wedges in there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And then this is the other hinge where, because it all folds up onto this here. So do
Yeah.
you just get rid of these?
This side is actually just covered by cabinets and stuff.
Oh,
you put
cabinets,
a
yeah.
cabinet there. The next gen, we have a new hinge design that's hidden within the wall panel.
Oh, okay.
And then it's going to fold up. You basically end up like 6 feet here. And we're going to have 6 feet by the length of the unit to put anything we need to in it. So, this is kitchen, bathroom. Other units could be other stuff. The rest of the space is all fully compressed down. And it's so important, if you can't ship, you can't scale production, and then you can never get efficient. And then we're stuck with the situation we're in now where housing is very slow and expensive.
So, I mean, when this unfolds, you've obviously got the hinges here. So the installer has to come drywall this, or what happens?
We have some covers for those hinges that pop out. A lot of this stuff kind of changes in the next gen.
Okay.
We end up with some trim pieces. You can do some just regular repairs with mud. It depends on.
So whoever's installing it is going to generally finish the seams, I guess, do the finish work.
Yeah, yeah. And like for example, this seam down the middle here, that actually doesn't need to be there. It probably won't be in the next design because that doesn't actually fold. Obviously, the fold is happening there
Here.
and there.
And then who would put, I guess the finish installer would put in baseboards as well then and finish that.
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
part of the instructions. You're going to come around with these screws.
Uh-huh.
You unfold it, and then you screw in all those, and you put on the baseboard.
Okay.
And like
Caulk the
you know,
baseboard and all that
but,
afterwards,
you
the
know,
finish guys.
like I mentioned, this is the first generation that we are running with that we designed before having done anything at all, and luckily it all works.
Yeah.
But now we have all these upgrades based on everything we've learned.
Yeah.
And the next gen is going to be amazing. One of the planned upgrades in the future, for example, is you're going to unfold the house. You're not actually going to use screws to lock it into place. We're going to have Allen keys. So the whole house is going to get set up just with an Allen key. You're going to go around and turn an Allen key in a few locations, and the hook will go in the wall and grab on.
So when you unfold this is how you actually attach the foundation.
Not to foundation, but that's how the wall goes to the floor.
Wall to floor.
And
I
then
understand.
floor to
Right? Okay.
foundation is
Sorry.
done with
Your
plates.
foundation, I mean. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then where are those plates for floor to real foundation?
That actually, the metal plates you pointed to earlier, that's what the real use of those are.
Okay.
Those are foundation connections.
Those are your connections.
Or unit to unit connection plates.
And I mean, California is going to give you a lot of seismic headaches. I imagine y'all are thinking about that.
So the house is just like rock solid. I mean, when you talk about these laminated panels, first of all, we have hurricane speed wind ratings on them.
Okay.
So like we could drop these in Miami, Florida, or Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, where they have crazy hurricane issues.
Yeah, that's true.
And they can handle it. It's incredibly strong. If I kick this wall, I'm not getting through it.
Sure.
So
Because obviously the concern would be if the outside wall somehow shifted or whatever, even an earthquake, and the foam is exposed, then the foam is exposed. So we got to keep the outside together. Right?
Yeah. I mean, when you're talking about a laminated panel with the structural adhesive, I mean, nothing's moving. In a laminate, you have different composites that are basically becoming one piece.
Sure. Sure.
It's
The two outside
really-
layers in the foam.
Yeah, the whole thing's just filled with glue. And
Have you
it's
done the
amazing.
seismic on it?
Yeah, because I know that we only have one test left for a modular cert. That's hopefully happening this week.
Okay.
So I know seismic's being done.
Okay.
And then, we've done every kind of test under the sun, as far as taking our panels, breaking them, measuring how they withstood the various loads and stuff that get put on them.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder how flexible it is, because the foam seems like it would be very rigid. And like one of the reasons we have, like, for example, Miami's doing cinder block because of the hurricanes, and in California we've got lumber so that the house can move. I wonder how that works with.
I think if you go to like a really tall skyscraper, they have some of those crazy foundations with like shock absorbers on them and stuff.
Okay, yes.
And I think that could be achieved with this,
Okay.
based on how the units are connected together and how the foundation was set up.
Okay.
But like
Isolate from-
for example, right now, this whole unit is not sitting on the ground. It's sitting on some like 6 wheels. So,
right.
so right here,
Last step.
Final stage of the assembly line, they're basically just going to fold this thing up, wrap it in plastic, and send it out the door. So you can see it's.
Okay, so it's going to get folded
Yeah,
now.
they folded back the roof already.
Ah.
You see the 3 pieces there. And we can take a walk outside and see
Let's
the
do it.
folded up units.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and here are your stencils. That's awesome.
I
For
think we're
painting.
swapping those for stickers next.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
A spray paint. And the scooters to get around. That's awesome. 3-wheelers. I want one. That looks great. There's your other. Is it directly this one?
Next building behind that.
The next building behind that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you'd have to drive the forklift around if you were moving between the two. Or just deliver where you need
We're
it.
going to have trucks that bring the stuff back and forth that needs to go.
Trucks between the two. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And so here you can see a bunch of units waiting to get shipped out. You can also see our trailer system that we built. So
These are your chassis right here. The flat. You built
Yeah.
the chassis.
Yep, exactly. And
Did you patent those things too?
Yes. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so of course we have, a 20-foot unit that folds up to 8.5 feet wide. Then it can be shipped highway legal without extra permits or flag cars.
Flags, yeah.
And then not only are we shipping a highway legal load, but we're shipping a highway legal load that would usually be 2 over wide loads, because
Yeah.
a 10-footer isn't over wide, so you
Right.
end up with 2. And then we're also able to tow them with a pickup truck, not a big rig. Or if we use a big rig, we can actually put 2 on one truck. And then beyond that, we can actually tow 4 units with a Tesla.
I see you have them daisy chained there.
So if you look at the picture, at the video we just put on Twitter, we daisy chained them and drove around the parking lot just for fun.
But you said they're 14,000 pounds each?
Yes.
And you can tow 4, so 15, you're looking at
Not
60.
legally,
Oh, okay.
but just to showcase
Yeah.
how
Your
shippable
system.
and transportable they are.
I understand. Okay.
So here are units ready to ship out. So you can
Okay.
see, of course,
How many deposits did you guys say you had already? Like,
paid deposits, probably about 8,000.
wow, 8,000
Yeah.
paid deposits now.
Yeah, and then the full names is about 160,000.
Like people who are interested, expressed interest or
Yeah,
whatever.
with their names
Okay.
on them.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Yeah, and then you could just spray paint sort of your name on them while they're shipping. Okay, and you guys are leasing the building, so if you guys want to move up to bigger and when your lease expires, you can just move.
Yeah, we've got like 5 and 5 here. Probably by the time that bigger factory's online, I don't know, will we just keep this and let it keep rocking? Maybe. We'll see what happens.
So
Do a
what's
tour
the
of
scoop
that.
with the roof? Do you need, are most agencies requiring a pitched roof? I think you mentioned that.
Yeah. So what we have now, it's snow load rated, insulated, waterproof roof with a TPO roofing membrane that comes from, forgetting the name of the company, but it's got a long warranty and all that.
And this membrane
company.
is like
It's usually
like
used in commercial roofings.
Okay.
But because it is flat, in most cases, if you're going for like a fully permanent build
Yeah.
and not a park model RV or something, you're going to have to put some other roof system on there. So we'll end up selling those as well separately, or you can just have a regular roof contractor come out and do different things based on, do you want it to match the style of your existing house or,
Right.
or whatever you want.
That makes sense. Because I'm thinking about the foam frame is going to have to carry that roof load, which will probably be framed out with lumber, which is very heavy. How does that work?
So the panels are incredibly strong. Not only could they handle a roof, but they can handle another house on top. Because we're doing the 2 stories.
Okay.
And we even just the flat roof as is does have a significant snow load rating on it as well. So I mean, it's good to go as is, but just because there's so many different use cases, there's so many different jurisdictions, we didn't want to have a set roof style from the factory. I think we'll end up with a really low pitch roof system kit that we sell that'll be pretty cheap.
Okay.
That will be for most use cases like, Southern California, Nevada, areas where they don't have big pitch requirements because of heavy snow.
I also think an end user is going to want to know from you guys that when I buy this and when it gets delivered, in order for me to get my permit and I need a roof, that the roof's actually going to pass the permit.
Yeah, and part of the rollout to the general public is building all that in, the financing, the contractor, the approvals, and making that user friendly for them.
And so your dad, you, and it's Kyle started the company?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was about 2018.
2018.
Back then, just had really drawing and a website.
Okay.
And then ended up getting invited to go to the Builder Show in Las Vegas and bring a house.
Oh, nice.
We just went actually a few weeks ago again. And back then we didn't have a house or anything, and we had a meeting and we're like, should we do it and like commit to it and build a house? And then we were like, yeah, let's do it. And then ended up going ahead and building the first prototypes and deploying them, and everyone was excited and just kept running with it from there and scaling up.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, you think April for Gen 2? Or maybe a little later?
I don't know, I'm thinking like, middle of this year.
Okay.
We'll see. I mean, there's so many moving parts with it.
Is your design final for that, or still working on that?
Pretty much, because all the equipment we've ordered is for the new design.
Okay.
There'll be some small changes, probably forever, as the company grows every year. But yeah, we've ordered, $15 million plus in equipment to build the new design.
Got it.
Which hopefully dramatically reduces build times, cost, increases structural ratings, reduces parts, all that good stuff.
Gotcha. This is also your office then. So if somebody calls in with customer service questions or whatever, is that all through here?
Yeah, we have a few customer service staff, investor relations in here. We also have a few tour guides that give tours, because we have people every single day that come for tours.
Wow.
Then we have a few off-site people for customer service as well. We do have, 160,000 person wait list, 40,000 investors, massive amount of inquiries. So we have to deal with all that and talk to everyone. And
what's your average investment?
So
I guess you raised 140 mil, so we'll just divide it.
So there's two offerings. There's Reg A,
okay,
which is not accredited, which we sold out quick. You can do 75 mil per year.
Yep.
And then we did Reg D. It's about half and half. I guess the average is like 5,000 or something.
5K, okay.
If you just divide it. But then if you look at the Reg A, the average is lower versus the Reg D. The minimum was 10,000.
Okay, on the Reg D.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is your finished unit.
This is a casita set up and ready to go. And take a step inside and we'll take a look.
Okay, so here are sort of the hinge covers.
Yeah, there you go. You can see how it's all kind of finished off.
Okay.
So, you've got the high 9.5 ceilings, 20-foot rooms, bed, couch, kitchen, full-size appliances, everything you need.
Yeah. Oh, you even had
Are
sort
you
of
in
a
need
bar.
of an ADU?
Well, we'll be in need of a lot of ADUs in the long term. California needs them especially. It's ridiculous.
Did you know California is giving grants to people?
To build ADUs?
$40,000 each.
I did not hear about that. Yeah. California, I don't trust them as far as I can throw them, honestly. California, but if they can pull that off, that'd be great, because that would make it more affordable to add ADUs and more housing.
Yeah.
So that's great. Now, are all of them coming with the extended countertop? Is that the goal?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, this just pops in. Basically all the appliances are jammed in here.
Yeah.
This is installed.
So there's your.
This cabinet goes in. Cover that hinge you mentioned before, and then furniture separate.
And this has the cross seam, like we saw being built.
Yeah, you can see it just being kind of mudded and painted,
and then the water heater's under here. But you got a Euro style door. These are nice. So this is then. Does it ship with the Euro door?
Ships everything just like this. This would be a stock unit minus furniture.
So I actually don't feel the seam on this one, because where is it? Somewhere over here.
Here it is. It's somewhere.
It's somewhere there, so you can't even tell. That's good.
Tell where it is.
That's good. You found it? McKay found it.
He didn't blind.
Hey, that's awesome. Okay. Yeah. Show a little bit there. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, we got the barn door.
And this is where.
Unit.
And again, the shutoffs were over there for that. Got it. And your dad, he was doing something related to like designs for this? Well, maybe not necessarily for Boxabl at the time, but he was working in industrial design or whatever?
Yeah, so his background is intellectual property licensing, where he would basically invent stuff, patent it, and then sell the patent.
I see.
And so this was kind of one of
Is he a lawyer?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
he's an engineer
I
and
see.
a designer.
I got you.
Yeah, so he actually came up originally with the folding house design as one of those patents back in the day, and then we took it and ran with it.
Wow. They are now consulting with Monroe's team, Sandy Monroe and his firm. That's really cool.
That's actually who we just kicked out of the conference room so we could sit here.
Wow,
So,
I feel honored.
Yeah.
But now I also feel bad.
they'll be fine.
So,
we have another conference.
how long have they been consulting for y'all?
So we did the original walkthrough with Sandy, and we posted that on YouTube like maybe a couple months ago.
Okay. And you've since hired them.
So that's when we started with them, and definitely great guys. Like I said, the goal here is
Sandy.
automobile style mass production. So we have not only them, we have Porsche, and then some of our employees came from automobile manufacturing before that. Because what we're doing here, it's not that crazy. I mean, building one house per minute shouldn't be that crazy. This is standard operating procedure.
That's
for
your goal, one per
automobiles.
minute in the future.
We're just looking at what they're doing with cars, and
Yeah,
we're
okay.
saying our houses are not even as complicated as cars. We should be able to exceed, all the stuff they're doing. The labor cost, the production rates. It should be a no-brainer. The quality level.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And Sandy's obviously really good at manufacturing and cars and consulting.
And YouTubing too.
Yes, yeah, he's funny. He's great. He also helped I think consult with Arcimoto and I mean he's been around with so many of them.
Yeah.
What were some of his thoughts and suggestions?
He came. We did the walkthrough with him and just posted it online. I'm looking forward now to seeing, what the actual full team comes back with and all the improvements that they have. So
you hired them to make improvements to the Gen 2 version, I'm assuming?
yeah, it's really about the manufacturing process.
How you should set up the new line, basically.
Yeah, not just Gen 2, but beyond that, we are planning to do, the world's biggest housing factory. So we're also asking for their help planning that.
Got it. And you said you've raised, what, about 148? Somewhere around there?
Yeah, over 140 million. Raised that all basically on the website by getting the word out on social media. It's been absolutely incredible for us in fueling all of this and making it possible. And if we didn't have all these people interested in what we're doing, we would not be here right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. So social media has been really the way to get this out. And how's the construction industry been responding? I mean, you got D.R. Horton for $1 million. That's awesome. What round did they invest in, by the way?
So not the current round, but the one before that.
Was that the ones that converted? There were
Yeah,
some shares that
they
converted?
invested in the convertible note round
okay.
at the same terms as everyone else. And, they having them invest means a lot because they know building construction better than anyone. They're the biggest builder in the country. They know what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. And the fact that they looked at us and said, you know what, these guys might be onto something, we want to get on board now, it says a lot about what we're working on. And they've been a great partner so far, not only with just the investment, the order of houses, and then giving us, access to their other,
Supply chains.
opportunities and things.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you said you have like 60 patents. There's transportation, there's the folding. What else? I mean, I'm sure there's so many things I don't see. Foundation, roof.
Yeah, it's a lot of different stuff. It's a lot of technical stuff. It's the design of the product. It's the manufacturing process. It's the shipping, the building materials.
I mean, the shipping is awesome.
Yeah, it's probably like hundreds of pages, all that patent stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. How do you guys? How much are you expecting it's generally going to cost wide load versus your style of shipping? Let's say here to Cali, here to LA.
Well, the shipping issue is what makes scaling factory production of buildings not work.
Yeah.
It's the single reason why houses are not just mass produced in a factory like everything else. If they could actually ship these things cost effectively, then we would be mass producing buildings on the scale that we're mass producing automobiles, televisions, sneakers, everything else. So, what we've done is we've made it work. Our product our first order shipped across the entire country to Florida, and that still made sense for them to do that. So, not only are we getting...
That's for Guantanamo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not only are we not doing a wide load, and the problem with the wide load is it's basically an illegal load for the highway. So you end up needing not just the truck driving the load, but you need a follow car. So another car and another driver. Yeah. Obviously that costs more. Then you have restricted routes, restricted travel times, route planning permits. Some states actually require a police escort.
Jeez.
It is like totally not scalable. If you've ever seen one driving down the road, you can understand why. What we have is just a standard highway legal load. And right now we're shipping to Arizona 2 per truck. So, I mean, that is the lowest cost it's ever going to get. It's amazing. And that's what's going to allow us to scale up production, have, huge automation, have a huge assembly line, push the labor costs down next to nothing, increase our bulk purchasing, and just get all these principles and efficiencies that traditional builders will never have.
So you ship the actual box, but then the baseboard and the interior cabinetry comes in a separate box, or it's inside of it somehow, or you just order on site for some of these other things you might need?
So cabinets, plumbing, electric, windows, flooring, all that's done in the factory. Okay. What happens on site is basically unfolding of the units, placing of the unit, a few touch-ups, a few trim pieces.
That's the drywall and the mudding or whatever. That's has to be done, baseboard and that.
Yeah, there's a few spots where you might want to do like some simple repairs on mudding, but even in the next gen, that's all gone.
How are you gonna get rid of that?
Be trim pieces. I think we're going to end up with a few kind of plastic, accent trim pieces.
Like what they used to do with sort of the, in like commercial offices, you see they've got the little trim T-bar that goes in
there's a number of things. And even just design, like for example, like look at this wall here.
Yeah.
So you see how this is part of the design.
Sure.
That doesn't have any mud in it, and it looks fine. You would never notice it or question it.
Okay.
So we'll see how it rolls out in the next gen.
No demos yet of next gen, just concept right now.
Yeah, and a lot of that differences are kind of going on behind the wall. People aren't gonna see the difference because the product looks great as it is, but the improvements that are coming in next gen are in things like the reduction in components, the speed to manufacture, the structural ratings, all these engineering changes.
Got it. Why don't you just stay with mobile? If you go in that RV mobile home market where, there are so many units from the 70s and 80s that need to be replaced. It would be such an easy market to start selling thousands of these to.
We're going to put it out there and we're going to sell to anyone that wants it and see where the customers come from. As far as like the use cases, there are so many. We have 160,000 names on the wait list, and each one of those people has a different use case where they're saying, I want to do this with it, I want to do this with it. So we'll see.
But that's complicated for manufacturing and scale. Like everybody who buys, for example, like a Tesla Model 3, it's the same thing for every single Model 3, essentially.
Yeah.
Maybe a different hubcap or something like that. But if retail starts getting into customizing these things, that seems like it would really...
Not customizing, just like what they're going to do with it.
Their use purpose.
Yeah,
use case. Okay.
But definitely we have enough demand where we can stick to this one, standardized product. It's like
how many do you think you're going to get out this year?
So we produce, let's say, 8 per week.
Okay.
If we maintain that production rate, that's what we'll maintain.
Yeah.
But I suspect we'll ramp it up towards the end of the year. After that new equipment comes online, after we, finish rolling out the new building, and not really sure what that number is going to be.
And that's this year that you're doing the 15 mil in upgrades or whatever.
Oh yeah.
On it. Okay.
Oh yeah. It's all changing this year.
So if you're probably looking at burning probably somewhere around 25 to 30 mil over the next year in just upgrades for automation, but then also the loss on the existing early models.
Yeah, I think definitely spending money on equipment, and then as far as like the unit economics, everything's kind of headed in the right direction. Labor cost. I think last month we had our lowest labor cost month per unit ever.
Per unit.
What
are you looking at?
Labor cost per unit?
Yeah.
I don't want to say a number, that might be wrong.
Would you say it's less than 10?
I think our direct labor is around that number right now. And we expect it to go down quite a lot. Like as I described, the various equipment
Conveyor
upgrades.
belt even. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, a ton of labor is getting removed from the process. A ton of components are getting removed. It's all getting simpler and faster. And then, just the material cost based on engineering changes is coming down. We're getting better at buying things. We're going to keep kind of massaging it into place and, hopefully come out, profitable relatively early on as far as like the life cycle of the company. Because if you look at other kind of hardware manufacturing startups, great examples like Tesla. I don't know when they became profitable, but I think it took a decade or something.
Takes a while.
So I think it'll be happening for us, way sooner than that, which is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like for me the big hurdle is that permitting, what you're going to go through with the states, what they're going to put you through. I imagine y'all are fully aware of those headaches.
It's been a nightmare so far, and really frustrating. It's taken way longer than we would have liked. It's one of the reasons you're not seeing more units in end user,
of course.
retail customers is because of this permitting stuff. And I think it's going to be like an ongoing fight, no different than maybe Uber or Airbnb having to fight against, taxi regulation or rental regulations. I think Boxabl will be fighting against building code stuff because what the codes are designed for right now is like an environment where you have fractured, thousands of individual builders all doing all different stuff. You have supply chains, you have building departments. And when you look at Boxabl, a lot of that stuff is just kind of not needed anymore. We are going to have this, established quality control environment where everything's standardized. A lot of these unknowns that the regulations are meant to solve
protect for
are not going to be in the mix anymore. So it'll happen. And I think, it's not just us that want to change it. I think, the regulators that want to change it, the politicians want to change it. They want to make housing make more sense. But the simple fact that we have to go through 50 different state agencies to get our one building approved is crazy. And what other products do you see that in?
Well, and then they update every 2 years to 4 years, depending on what cycle you're in. So you're constantly fighting that.
Yeah. It's all part of it. But, on the flip side, we're in a situation now where there's so much demand for our product. If there's a regulation issue in one area, we just won't go there right now. We'll sell somewhere else. And there's plenty of demand.
And you think you're close in Arizona, you said?
Yeah, I think that's the first state where we're going to get modular cert.
That's for modular. So is that going to be modular on foundation or?
There's basically 3 paths. This park model RV, which we already have.
Yes.
Modular, which modular is equivalent to the regular residential building code. That's the main thing that we'll be getting around the country. And then you have manufactured housing, which is what a trailer park home would be under. And that's actually a federal HUD code. And there's drawbacks to that too. And there's one more path, which is basically a local building code that would possibly consider us as panelized buildings. So we're just trying to pursue all of this so that we can show our customers, hey, here are your choices, here are our approvals, our certifications, and they can go whichever route is easiest for them.
For the customer?
Yeah, for the customer.
Oh, so the customer could potentially go, hey, here, you could go through the panelized process or the modular process.
Yes, and we'll arm them with all the documentation they need to say, here it is. And then you have cool stuff going on, like in California and LA, they're allowing for pre-approvals. So a manufacturer like us could go to the city of LA and get our buildings pre-approved. So the homeowner literally goes in. They don't even need a building permit. They just say, I'll take that one. And it's on a list.
That's the way to do it. Because the last thing you want is to start delivering these things and then you're in the permit process for 2 years in California.
Yeah. And, we originally thought when we started Boxabl, we have this building system that we think can build most buildings. Where do we start? Maybe we'll go with our smallest room module, which is the Casita, and we'll target that towards ADUs. So California is super pro ADU. They've passed laws to basically enable those and legalize them all around the state. They've reduced things like setbacks and permitting requirements. So it's kind of opening the floodgates for those ADUs.
Okay. And you think you're cost competitive on the, if I've got to do a foundation and a roof, utilities, landscaping, siding, really the difference between you and conventional is me stick building it, drywall, stucco, although you might do siding it or stucco anyway on yours. So the difference is really just the inside. It's again the studs, the insulation, the kitchen, the floor. That stuff is done. And do you think you can be cost competitive versus conventional on that?
Yeah. So site prep, that's always got to be done on
Sure.
site prep.
You need a foundation. Yeah.
We can reduce a few things and reduce kind of the friction on that, we think. But at the end of the day, it's always kind of a custom job for a building. And when you look at traditional building construction and the costs associated with it, well, first of all, not only is it going to be much slower because an average build time for a single family is 6 months, but it's not cheap. I think I've called around many times to try and find pricing to build an ADU, and you're looking at 150, 200, 250
Sure.
For an ADU, a
All
comparable
in,
product
probably.
to Boxabl.
Yeah.
So I think that we can come in as the lowest cost product right now with our current unit cost and the site development cost, and of course that's what the company needs to do. We need to have the lowest cost housing solution ever done.
Right, because I mean, if a contractor quotes you $200K, let's say, for an ADU, conventionally built, that's going to include already, I imagine, the utilities, the foundation, the roof, the siding, and all of that, and the permits, right? So we're looking at, I mean, you would have to be manufacturing these for probably somewhere around what? I mean, $30,000, $35,000. You sell them for say $60K, and maybe you're trying to be $20,000, $30,000 less expensive than the other guy.
Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to do is end up with the lowest cost solution, and eventually one day probably bulk sale to large
Builders.
national home builders at a lower cost than they can build for, while also providing them with a product that's higher quality, better ratings, and faster to deploy.
And then let them sell the customizations of the cosmetics, the veneer on the outside, the roof, and all that.
Yeah.
That I think is one of the best ways forward.
Yeah.
I think dealing with individual customers, I'm saying this, not you guys, is hell.
Yeah, well, it definitely adds a layer of complication and stuff to things.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we're not a real estate developer. We're just the manufacturer of these room modules. We have to get really good at that, really fast at that, bring the price down on that.
Right, because now you're really competing with your staff against the existing home builder staff, to where the existing home builder says, wait a minute, you're more affordable for that ADU. Let's just do you than have all of this staff or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what you're competing against. So you're not actually really competing against that individual contractor. You're competing with those builders who are already at scale for conventional building.
Yeah, I mean, we're offering them a product that's going to dramatically simplify their whole business model. If you've ever built anything and you've dealt with subcontractors and weather delays and cost increases, I mean, it's a nightmare. Just to take all those variables out of the mix, it's going to be a game changer for these guys.
Numbers. You've been transparent that obviously you take a salary and your dad does. I think, can you disclose those?
I don't know the exact number, but it's on the filings.
Okay.
It's all that, everything's public already. We have huge amount of transparency with the company.
So I think it's like 400 each. Does that sound right?
At least that.
Because then there's stock comp on top of that.
We do not have stock options, but we do own the company. We don't have stock options right now, I don't think.
Okay. And then it looks like, at least as of one of the earlier filings, it was about 74% your dad and it's 26 issue.
The common shares is split up roughly that amount. But then we've sold off 25 to 30% to investors. Okay. So our percentage of the total is a little less than that.
Of course. Mentioned. Okay. And then at one point you sold some shares.
Yeah.
About $5 million worth?
Yeah.
Why? Just to live?
Wanted to pocket some money, and it's about Paolo did as well. It's about 1%, less than 1% of our total holdings in the company, and our mission here is not just to change the world and do housing. It's to be successful for ourselves and take care of our family.
Of course,
and
I mean, ultimately that's everybody's goal.
Yeah,
If you can have a win-win product, then that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's okay. And then now, how did you all arrive at the valuation for the company?
So it's a bunch of different factors, but the big one is just like, if you think about the upside here and what we're trying to change and what the market size is for this and how disruptive the potential is.
Yeah.
You can look at this and say, all all right, this is one of the biggest industries in the world. It's multi-trillion dollars. It's very old school. We're basically saying we think we can take the whole thing and transition it into our factory and, be the cheapest, fastest guy. And if we do that, I think we can clean up and scale up really quickly. So that's one way of looking at it. Then we could talk about projected revenues for this factory, what our short-term goals might be, and then of course the ultimate deciding factor of price is going to be, or valuation is going to be, demand for the shares. And then if you want to look at comps in the market, I think a good example might be a lot of these EV car manufacturers, especially the ones that didn't have a manufacturing setup first. So you have these like
a Lucid.
Where you have the crazy valuations on these companies where they haven't built anything yet. They don't really have a lot of new technology. Of course we do. And they've got, these monster valuations. So, and then, at the end of the day, what do we think is the exit for investors? Like what valuation do we think we can achieve once we go public so that everyone ends up ahead?
What do you think that is?
I don't really know, what a public company valuation could be for Boxabl. I do know that, we have this plan in the near term to basically set up, a factory that will cost, $1 billion down the street. It'll be the largest house factory ever done, produce tens of thousands of units and billions in revenue. And I think that, sooner or later we're going to get into that because sooner or later it's going to be obvious that we have a real game-changing solution, and that every day that goes by, the risk is kind of continues to evaporate, and we get closer and closer to proving we have the holy grail of housing here. And I think at a certain point, everyone's going to start signing on. Resources are going to pour in, and we're going to go really, really big. So what I'd like to do is basically, break ground on a big factory like that, and then hopefully deliver on some kind of, liquidity for investors like an IPO.
That would be factory 3 then.
Maybe 3.
Yeah. Okay. And
we're calling it Boxzilla.
Boxzilla. Okay. So you would be going from essentially what we have now, about a $10 million facility, including inventory, so $5 million facility, to $1 billion. Is that why you brought people like Sandy on board? Because it's 100 to 200x of a facility.
It's definitely quite a heavy lift and ambitious, but so is this. Okay. And look around at what we're doing right now and where we were a few years ago, and people were saying a 50 million valuation's a lot, and you've never done this before, and what you're doing is ambitious. But here we are. Yeah. The houses are churning out every day. So hopefully we'll be in that position again in a few years. Where
especially if you get permits for the retail guys.
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
Need permits, to be able to sell the houses. But yeah, we need a lot of help, and we have a lot of help rolling in. Yeah. And part of that's been from social media and getting the word out, and interest flowing in literally from all around the world. Yeah, it's been incredible.
Is anybody calling asking about the valuation when they want to invest in your Reg A?
Yeah, a lot of people ask about it.
And it's the same answer probably.
Yeah, I mean those are kind of the main points on it. Yeah. Okay.
So you had mentioned the projected revenues. What projected revenues do you have?
I mean, I don't like to talk too much about projections, but roughly we think that this current setup between this building and the other one, once we're ramped up, we might hit about 5,000 units per year.
Okay.
So 5,000 times 60 is 300, and we'll see if that's the only product in the mix at that point. There may be other products in the mix as well.
Sure.
Maybe a higher price model or an empty bedroom model or something.
When do you hit profitability per model? Because obviously you have cost of goods sold, which right now are about 77 per 60K unit. Right? So obviously that scales, but you also have OpEx after that. So if you have 5,000 units at $3 billion of rev, you don't want the cost to be, 4, right? Because then we're 20% higher.
Yeah, the current material cost is not that. That was like an older filing. It's obviously it's come down and continue to come down. But yeah, so just on a basic level, materials plus labor, minus retail cost has to be there, and then our fixed overhead has to divide up amongst the amount of units we're making. So we only have this much rent on this much square feet. So if we make 10 units, the cost per unit is much higher on that rent than if we had 100 units.
Can you get to profitability in this building, or do you need to get to Factory 3?
Yeah, we think that we have a clear path to profitability between these two buildings, and of course, like that's the main focus of what we're doing here, is to get to that.
So right now, as of your last filing, you had about $57 million of cash, 7.5 of inventory. Where are you going to get the money for $1 billion? That's the nature of the fundraise, I guess?
Yeah, I think we've got over 80 million in the bank right now. So I believe,
with new funding, okay.
Yeah, I believe we're like in a good spot to, play out everything under the current square footage with the current plan and get to profitability, even if we didn't raise another dollar. So like under the current factory, I think we have a clear path to making it happen. And then of course the bigger factory that's all new funding. So
that'll be a new funding round in the future for the new factory.
Yes, yeah, pretty much. Like that's kind of what we're looking to raise money for now. So we're looking to raise $1 billion to set up what would be the world's largest house factory, and chasing down like a whole bunch of different opportunities on that.
Yeah.
From everyone under the sun, institutional investors, strategics, investment banks, all that kind of stuff. A big part of that cost is just land and warehouse building, because it'll be like a from scratch building several million square feet.
Sure, you're owning this and buying the land rather than leasing it is the goal.
Yeah. But even that's another possibility for funding. Like for example, here in Las Vegas, we have huge amount of warehouse development, which you might have noticed driving in, and we're going to get to, possibly we could say, hey, build to lease, because they'll put up 1 million square feet here with no tenant and just put it on the market. Sure. So we could potentially just actually lease the big factory building, and that would take the cost.
You do a 7 or 10 year lease, and they build it out for you.
Cost would come off our plate if we did that, and that would bring the total capital amount down. But this is a big problem. It requires a big solution. I think there's 3.8 million housing units short, according to some statistics.
At least it's more. Yeah.
And it's a big opportunity. And then beyond the United States, this potentially scales everywhere, even without that bigger factory, because one avenue for us is we take everything we're doing here, once it's dialed in, maybe at the end of this year, maybe once we're profitable, and then we say to other players around the world, hey, do you want to copy what we've done? And we bring them on as franchise license partner factories. So that's a possibility for us. We actually have a growing list of inquiries for that on our website. So we'll see how that plays out as well.
The DR Horton investment you mentioned was during the convertible round. That looked like it was at a valuation of about 10 to 15 times smaller than the valuation now. What changed?
So that round basically ended before we had done anything.
Okay.
So, I think it was a convertible note. So I think it's around 200 million valuation, something like that.
Okay.
They
now you're at 3.1.
Something like that, roughly, yeah. And basically they signed into that, I think, as this factory was being set up, or before that's set up, before we had really proven that we could do it. So, a big reduction in risk happening from when we're kind of just planning and setting up to when we're actually shipping houses to when we're actually starting to refine the unit economics.
Right. Okay, I think I've got like 2 more questions and then I'm done.
Cool.
It looked like in the first 6 months of 2022, you all wrote in $3.5 million of R&D, plus you had part of your cost of goods sold R&D. You mentioned that it's you, Kyle, and your dad that do the R&D. So how do those expenses go to you guys? Just the check?
No, it doesn't come to us.
Okay.
No, that's probably like scrapped parts and stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, no. The only payments that came to us is salary.
Salary, and then
Yeah.
if there's stock comp, whatever that, or whatever shares you sold.
And yeah, selling shares is a separate thing from that. Yeah.
You sold about 6.25 million shares at 80 cents. That's what you're raising money at right now.
Yeah.
If somebody, let me know if this sounds right. If somebody were to invest $1 million, they would get about 1.25 million shares at 80 cents. So $1 million, 1.25 million shares at 80 cents is about $1 million. It's exactly $1 million. So $1 million investment. At the current valuation, y'all have 3.92 billion shares outstanding. That puts you at that valuation of about $3.1 billion. That person's $1 million investment would essentially be the equivalent of about $318 of cash that they would have ownership of in your company after that investment, which means the person is spending $999,782.20 of their $1 million investment on the intellectual property and the brand y'all have built. Do you think that's fair?
First of all, let me say, I feel like that GIF where the numbers are flying all around,
Okay.
because that was a lot of numbers. But yeah, of course, they're not buying one-for-one cash. I don't think that's really makes sense to make that comparison. They're buying the company, not the cash. If they're buying cash, it would be
Sure.
Totally different type of deal. But yeah, they are buying onto a vision that is an absolutely massive vision. It's kind of all or nothing. This is play for world domination, change how all buildings on the planet are made in a multi-trillion-dollar industry. This is not a small play that we're doing here. This is a big risk and a big undertaking, and we are trying to mass produce housing on a scale that's never been done before in the history of the world. We're trying to build the largest house factory in the history of the world. We're trying to dramatically reduce housing costs for everyone, and it may not work, but
That's an investment.
But yeah, but I think it is working. I think it's working, and if someone wants to look at like me and the company and what we've done from the beginning, we've consistently delivered. Basically from an idea, no experience in this at all, and we've gone in and just made a plan and executed it on it and delivered and scaled up a factory from nothing with an experimental product and all new manufacturing equipment. And I think it's absolutely amazing. And now it's going beyond me and Paolo and Kyle, and we're expanding into a team of really amazing employees that are taking the vision and running with it and pushing it beyond me. So up until a certain point, it was all me and Paolo and Kyle.
Yeah.
But now we have, it's now resting on the backs of this whole team. So it's kind of grown beyond me into this, creature on its own.
Yeah.
So.
But you three are still the core of the R&D right now, right?
Yeah. Well, of course, we're directing the company. But
nobody else is doing the research right now.
Quite a lot of people are doing research. I guess the core direction comes from us.
Sure. Okay.
But my point is it's coming alive on its own,
Yeah.
separate from us now at this point.
Last question. You had mentioned in your valuation, sort of, you let the market decide. That the market decides, if they want to invest or not at 80 cents. It's about 167 times your old revenue from last year. Have you had any institutions or venture capital other than D.R. Horton at the valuation that was 15 times lower?
We do have some, institutions, companies.
Is that Dalmore?
As investors. Dalmore is our investment bank. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, you should hire them as well. If
You
you're
like Dalmore?
looking to
Okay.
do Reg A. I'll tell you why later, but they're the best game in town for this kind of thing.
Great. Well, I'm done with my questions. So why don't you pitch how people can invest and anything else you want to add?
Well, I'm not going to tell them to invest, but
Sure.
if you want to learn more about the company, we are kind of posting everything we do online. So, YouTube, Instagram, check us out. You're welcome to come for a tour of the factory and learn more about what we're doing. And one thing I will mention about investing is right now investing is not open to the general public. It's only open to accredited investors.
So because you've maxed your Reg A.
Yes,
Roughly,
and another thing you'll learn about Reg A and Reg D, you have to be very careful about disclosures and what you say. So that's why I'm making sure to tell people that it's not open to just anyone.
Where
who
can
wants
somebody go to
invest.
read your prospectus?
Just go to the website, click
Boxabl,
invest.
okay.
You'll see the prospectus on there.
So to be clear, this video is not a solicitation. Go to boxabl.com. It's the website? Or
Yeah,
just
learn
Boxabl?
more
Go to
about the company.
boxabl.com, read the prospectuses there.
Cool.
Not financial advice. Any other disclaimers? I think we did good. Yeah? Good?
That's about it.
I think we're it. Thank you.
Cool.
Pleasure.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks for
great
coming.
answers.
Good
Thank you so
stuff.
much.